Our brave first reader originally came here as a BMI Cluj Fellow in 2012 to 2013. She loved being here so much that she applied to the MFA program. After these 3 years, surrounded by people struggling with writing, getting wasted and talking about writing, not writing, but reading a shitload of great writing, she tells me she's not ready to go. So I say, don't. And honestly, you can't, because once you're in this community, you can never really be out. As long as you're here, as long as you're near, there will always be those of us happy to grab a glass and let our thoughts and the booze flow. Everyone, please welcome Oksana.
Hi guys. So you know that Al Pacino moment in I think it was one of the Godfathers, when he says, "Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in." This is a Las Vegas moment for sure. You can never leave. You know, after a couple of years, you're done. You're here for life. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really sad too, because like Tim said, the program is over, and I really enjoyed it. And I asked him if he could pull some strings for me to stay a little bit longer. And he was like, "Sure, no problem, Oksana," but I haven't heard anything back from you yet. It's in the works, okay. So this section of my manuscript is from the same story that I read last time, for those of you who were here. And it's, in a nutshell, about an entity, kind of a godly entity, who decides to retire in Las Vegas and realizes that he has Alzheimer's and is becoming human, losing all of his powers. I'm going to try to do 2 male voices, so forgive me ahead of time. "You call that half?" The customer pressed a piece of the flapping tire back in place. "There's still life in this here rubber. If I were retired, I'd patch it up myself." He chuckled. "Got it? Tire, retired? Ha." The technician said, "Sir, it's illegal for us to fix it. Half of it is missing." "Now, don't be stupid, young man. A word with your supervisor and we'll get this straightened out." The old man waved in general direction of the front of the tire shop and said, "Lead the way, my misguided friend." Inside the showroom, chrome wheels hung on the walls like prized heads in a hunting lodge. The place, though void of customers, or maybe because of it, sparkled. As the man shuffled to the counter, his trench coat left behind a trail of fermented stench. Not at all what the prestigious Tire Gods company would call acceptable customer material. The manager came out of the back office. He switched on his best smile, but it cracked when the old man, in all of his unsavory glory, reached his destination and leaned onto the counter. "May I help you?" the manager said. "You may." The customer squinted at the name tag. "Mr. Spencer, principal. Little grasshopper over there tells me I've got half my tire gone missing. When I dropped Evie off this morning, it was nothing but a hole yay big." He made a show of moving his thumb and forefinger closer together in slow motion. With a somber expression, the manager watched until the customer finished his demonstration. Then he said, "I understand how frustrating it can be to have to spend money in this tough economy." "Who said anything about spending?" Watery eyes bulged. The man folded his crusty leaves on the laminated surface, separating him from the 30-something with a hangover tinge to his breath. The manager crossed his arms. "There isn't much I can do for that tire, and it'd be illegal for me to let you drive off the lot with it." "So you're gonna keep me hostage until I buy a new one? Give an old gizzard a break, will ya?" "We have plenty of old ones." The manager's cheeks tightened with bravado. A slight tick pulled at the older man's left eye. "I bet you do." Just then, one of the overhead lights gave a pop, sending a shower of white glass down to the tiles at the 2 men's feet. The manager covered his head with a shriek. Ever since the unfortunate incident involving a bong and a 3-way light bulb, he had lost faith in modern lighting. The customer regarded his surroundings like someone about to regret nothing. His face had lost his amiable squint. A soft breeze fanned his trench coat and spiky white hair. "You listen to me. All I've done my entire life is spend my energy, my goodwill, and all that crap. Now that I'm finally retired, you telling me you can't make an old man happy? Do you know who I am? His voice held the undertones of a church bell. When the manager recouped from the light bursting, he came around the counter and moved a move one made only in those cases when a customer didn't respond as they should to a perfectly molded sales pitch. You can be God for all I care. God was the worst student in my class, the man bit out. The showroom began to shake, lights flickered. The old man's feet lifted off the ground for just a split second, long enough for him to notice. He had suddenly closed the distance between them and now stared with grave abatement into the younger man's eyes that blinked several times in concession, but remained oddly quiet as if he'd fallen under a spell. I am Mr. Universe, the customer said. I am the creator of everything. Everything you know, of all worlds, of life's every particle. The manager covered his face with shaking hands. His body leaned forward with the effort not to get blown away by an invisible wind. And he said with a whine of someone who knew he was about to say the wrong thing but who couldn't help himself, "Company policy states." "You dare defy me?" The manager nodded and peered up through his fingers with a sheepish expression. "Very well, I didn't want to get it this far, but my patience is waning. Fix my damn tire, or I will call your corporate office." Petrified, the manager could barely move his lips. "You're a monster." "Don't underestimate me," the old man said. Silence. "You've only just been promoted. Would hate to see you back to flipping burgers at Dave's Tender Chick." "How did you know?" A real smile warmed the customer's roughened exterior. "Tara looks good on you, Spencer Principal." "I'm sure we can work something out," the manager said. "I am listening. A brand new tire," he added quickly. "Free of charge, of course." "What kind?" "I don't want no Sumomotos. Got a reputation to uphold." "I understand. How about a set of brand new Coopers?" Another shake. "I mean Michelins," the manager hurried to correct himself. The old man scratched his chin. "My Eve would like that." Spencer hurried back to the counter as if it were an anchor to keep him steady and grounded and totally not freaking out about what had just happened. From the shelf below, he picked up a thin booklet, the Tire God's rule book, which every employee had been trained to turn to in the same fashion a believer turns to a holy book. Mr. Universe was back to his breezy self, leaning on the counter, not a bit intimidating. "So I'll pick her up at 6? We close at 5, Spencer answered without thinking. There had never been a tornado in the middle of Las Vegas before, especially not one targeted so precisely at a local business. The store employees managed to flee before the building gave, all except for one, who now stood in the middle of the rubble that used to be the showroom, gripping the toasted remains of the Tire God's rule book. The paramedics led the man, who seemed to be suffering from acute shock, to the ambulance and laid him onto a gurney, but hard as they tried, they couldn't pry the book from his hands. It would take Spencer Principal only a few days to recover, but when asked, he had no recollection of the events that had demolished his store. Thank you.